Anthony Edwards, I love you like a son. Unfortunately, I have to stop supporting you over the next couple of weeks as the Mavericks take on the Timberwolves in the conference finals. So, unfortunately, your shoes, which are incredible, they're some of the best basketball shoes I've ever worn, I just can't have them in my possession anymore. So, I apologize. It's just the way that it has to be. Okay?
Hey, asshole! You just hit me with the flying shoe.
Don't worry about it.
No, I'm coming up there. I'm about to beat your ass. No, I'm gonna be up there.
That's okay.
No, I'm coming right now.
Go Mavs.
Well, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, the Western Conference Finals, the Dallas Mavericks versus the Minnesota Timberwolves, and this is going to be an insane series. I mean, just looking at it, this is going to be a slugfest for the ages, if I had to guess. Now, as has been the case in my other series preview videos, I will not be talking about the regular season matchups between these two teams at all, as the last time these two teams played was January 31st, and the Dallas Mavericks hadn't made their trades yet. I think Luka and Kyrie played in one game together in the four regular season matchups between these two teams, so it just does not matter. There's just nothing you can take away from it, really. And man, this is going to be just nuts. Just absolutely insane. And to be fair, I feel like most people who are serious about basketball and serious about watching basketball agree that this series is going to be an absolute slugfest that could go the full 7 games. I've seen a lot of Mavericks fans who have said that people aren't taking the Mavericks seriously. I don't necessarily really agree with that. Again, I think most serious analysts agree that this will be a close series. I don't care what the Inside the NBA guys say, all right? Stop tagging me in those. I don't care. They do not, I'm telling you right now, they don't watch. They do not watch. Vegas has this being pretty close to a toss-up series. I mean, the Timberwolves are definitely favorites in this series, but it's close enough that Vegas clearly thinks the Mavericks have an honest-to-God shot at winning this series. And let's just talk about it. I've been saying this over the past couple of weeks now that I think the Mavericks have been the second-best defensive team in the postseason out of all of the playoff games that I've watched, trailing only the Minnesota Timberwolves. And now these two teams meet up, and this is going to be some early 2000s shit. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a game in this series where the final score is 84-79. That would not surprise me at all. The Timberwolves were a historic defense in the regular season. They've been even better in the playoffs. They've held their opponents to 7.7 points below their regular season offensive rating so far. And their series against Denver was just masterful. I mean, the first 2 games of that series was like a historically great defensive performance. And then in Game 7 on the road, you're down by 20 points, and it looks like the curtain has closed on you. Their defense holds the Denver Nuggets to 37 second-half points. 37 points in the second half. And the Nuggets, towards the end of that game, even though the game was close, the Timberwolves are only up by 2 points with like 6 minutes left, it felt like the Nuggets felt like it was over. Like, you could just sense it in their body language that they did not think they could muster up enough offensively to beat this Timberwolves team. I mean, it was a masterful defensive performance from Minnesota. It shouldn't come as much of a surprise to me. Look at their defensive personnel. Anthony Edwards is making a real legitimate case for being the best two-way player in the NBA with his play so far this postseason. Jaden McDaniels will probably make an all-defensive team this season. Rudy Gobert, obviously, the defensive player of the year. He had several just remarkable plays in the series against the Nuggets, stopping what was thought to be an unstoppable play where Jokic is rolling in the short roll and Aaron Gordon's cutting baseline. Like, he had several moments where he broke that play up. Like, Nickeil Alexander-Walker's a great guy off the bench to have defensively. Mike Conley, honestly, for his size, is pretty solid defensively. And then you have Karl Anthony Towns, who has been a positive defensively so far this postseason, which is huge for this team. So at any given moment, they could have 5 plus to legitimately elite defenders on the court, and you feel it when you watch them. But the Mavericks have also been absolutely elite this postseason. I mentioned earlier that the Timberwolves have held their opponents to 7.7 points per 100 possessions worse offensively in the playoffs. The Mavericks, 7.1. So the Mavericks are also absolutely stifling their opponents and forcing them to play much worse than we've grown accustomed to, especially this Oklahoma City Thunder team, which was one of the best offenses in the league during the regular season. The Mavericks smothered them. We know how much the Oklahoma City Thunder like to drive the basketball. They scored on 58% of their drives in the regular season, 36.5 points per game on drives. That was the most in the NBA. During the series against the Mavericks, 29 points per game on drives, which was third in the entire second round. And they only scored points on 43% of their drives, which was dead last in the second round, the second worst in the entire playoffs. The Clippers from the first round series was the third worst number at 47% on their drives. This Mavericks defense will swarm you. They will cut off driving lanes. They will contest shots at the rim. They will block shots at the rim. They force you to take shots that you are uncomfortable with. They will double team Anthony Edwards early and often. In fact, I'd be surprised if there were too many possessions in this series where Anthony Edwards is not seeing multiple bodies, because the Dallas Mavericks, we've seen this since the trade deadline, and we've certainly seen it it in the postseason. They will help off of any non-shooter you have on the floor. They do not care. They feel very comfortable in their rotations. They feel very comfortable in their help defense. They feel very comfortable in their backline defenders and their communication, that they do not care about leaving guys open for three. And that could pose a problem for the Timberwolves because looking at who they throw out there and looking at their rotations, they will have at least one guy on the floor at any given moment that the Mavericks will be completely and totally comfortable leaving wide open. And that was a problem at times in the Thunder series, especially when the Thunder pulled the plug on Josh Giddey, where the Thunder could trot out a five-man lineup where in theory, all five guys could shoot. Obviously, you don't have to worry about Rudy Gobert shooting the three-pointer. You do have to worry about him hitting insane fadeaway jumpers late in the game. If I was a Denver Nuggets fan after this shot, I would have myself. Okay, I'm just being real. But you have a guy like Kyle Anderson, who's one of their last guys off the bench in this postseason rotation. He's not going to get that many minutes, but he hasn't made a three since April 3rd. And he's only attempted one this postseason. I don't know if he is somebody who can even really play in this series. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, a good three-point shooter in the regular season, 32% from three this postseason, and the Nuggets, by the end of that series, were completely and totally cool with him shooting threes. The Mavericks will also force Jaden McDaniels to make threes. He was a 33% three-point shooter in the regular season, although he's had some real flashes this postseason, including averaging 22 points per game over the last two games of that Denver Nuggets series, going 6 of 9 from three in those two games, and 3 of 4 in Game 7. So he's proven that he can make a defense pay for leaving him open, and he's going to have to do that in the series because the Mavericks will spend possessions leaving him open. For Minnesota defensively, kind of similar to the Mavericks in a way where they want to funnel you into tough shots. They want to funnel you into their rim protector in Rudy Gobert. They want to run you off the three-point line. They feel very good about their defenders one-on-one, so the help's not going to be as significant as it was in the series against the Thunder, where the Mavericks were just bombing corner three after corner three because the Thunder were having to leave their guys so much to go help because of just the huge size disadvantage the Thunder were at. So defensively, I think both of these teams are going to have great series. I mean, the Timberwolves, they match up well defensively against pretty much anybody in the NBA, and the Mavericks, who have been great defensively so far this postseason, I think that this is actually the best matchup they'll have so far just defensively in terms of what they like to do and what they're going to be able to do in terms of helping off of guys and rotating around. And also just sending bodies at Anthony Edwards. Like they should be able to do that in this series. So this will really boil down to who offensively is going to be able to muster up enough points to win the basketball game. And it's so reductionist, it's so stupid, it's so base level, but it's just going to come down to the stars. It really is. Who's going to make the plays? Who's going to make the shots in the big moments? Who's going to step up in tough one-on-one situations against elite defenders and get a shot off and get it to go? Anthony Edwards has just been amazing. I mean, there's a real case that Anthony Edwards has been the best player in this postseason. He's been, just by efficiency, the best ISO player this postseason, just in terms of high volume guys. I mean, he's just been absolutely phenomenal to watch. 29 points per game this postseason, 62% true shooting. That is a huge boost from his regular season efficiency numbers, which is just kind of rare to see a guy climb like that. But he is prone to some of these lower ceiling games. He's had 4 games this postseason under 20 points. He's had 5 games with 4 or more turnovers, 3 games where he has shot below 33% from the field. And it will be important for him to be consistent in the series because really the only reason the Thunder Mavericks series went 6 games instead of 5 was because Shai Gilgeous-Alexander put the team on his fucking back for pretty much the majority of that series. And he was a consistent 30-plus points. It felt like getting to his spots and hitting every single shot, which is what you have to do against an elite defensive team. So this will be interesting because this will be the most difficult defense the Timberwolves have faced in this postseason. The Suns are terrible defensively. The Nuggets are okay to, pretty good defensively whenever they lock in. This Mavericks defense is legitimately elite. I need to say that because I've seen people say, well, the Mavericks are going to struggle to score offensively, so the Timberwolves will also struggle to score here. It is going to be a rock fight. It's also going to put a lot of pressure on Karl Anthony Towns, who has been really, really good this postseason and deserves a ton of credit. 18.8 points per game, 51% from the field, 44% from three this postseason, and I think more importantly than anything else, only 1.8 turnovers per game. If you look at his 3 other trips to the postseason, 2.4 turnovers per game his first time, 4.5 turnovers per game, 3.6 turnovers per game. So a guy who's been prone to making mistakes has been really, really solid on that end this postseason, and he does deserve a lot of credit. And he's going to have a big series here against the Mavericks, especially considering that stretch bigs have given the Mavericks some problems during this season and in the postseason, which is why Naz Reid also scares the shit out of me as a Mavericks fan. I mean, Naz Reid this season against the Mavericks, 16 points per game, 56% from 3. This guy does not miss when he plays the Dallas Mavericks. He scares the shit out of me. But Mike Conley will also be massively important as somebody to help sort of captain the ship against an elite defensive team. The Timberwolves offensively this postseason, 18.6 points per 100 possessions better when Mike Conley is on the floor. He's dealing with an Achilles injury that left him out of Game 5 entirely. And it's not like he's a young guy. He's a grandpa out there. He's 36 years old. And once this series starts, it's going to be every other day. So that's actually That's an interesting thing to keep an eye on here, is Mike Conley's injury status as the series goes on. Is this something that's going to flare up again and bother him, or is he clear to go? Because he's going to be very important, obviously, in this series as well. And for the Mavericks offensively, obviously, it's the Luke Kai backcourt. What are these guys going to do? Kyrie Irving was just swarmed against the Thunder. You saw two bodies every single time. I think the Timberwolves will probably be a little bit more comfortable going one-on-one with Kyrie Irving. Same thing with Luka Doncic. I don't know how much help these guys are going to see realistically over the course of the series, so it's going to come down to them to hit shots and make plays. And we've seen Luka get stronger as these series have progressed. This is a guy who's not playing anywhere close to 100%. You watch him in the regular season, it's obvious that this knee sprain is clearly bothering him. The first 4 games against the Los Angeles Clippers, 29 points per game on 38% from the field. The final 2 games of that series, 31.5 points per game, 11.5 assists per game on 44% from the field. The first 4 games against the Oklahoma City Thunder, 22 points per game on 39% shooting. The final 2 games, he averaged a 30-point triple-double with 56% from the field, 52% from 3. So this is a guy who, as the series has progressed, has gotten better. But I just think in this matchup, they're going to need him to be Luka Doncic from opening tip game 1 onwards. I also think the Mavericks could have a sneaky advantage here. You think about the Timberwolves, you think about Cat being there, you think about Gobert being there, you think about them being an elite defensive rebounding team, and the numbers just don't really back that up. And for the Mavericks, I mean, they've made some money this postseason rebounding the basketball. They've had a 31% offensive rebounding percentage in this postseason. That's second only behind the Knicks, a 32% offensive rebounding percentage in that series against the Thunder. Second chance points were huge. They were massive in that series, and that's going to be something to keep an eye on, especially if the Mavericks are spamming pick and roll and there's not a lot of help and Gobert has to play up to prevent a lob or prevent a floater. Can guys like Lively and Gafford do work on the glass? That's going to be an interesting storyline to follow this postseason. This will be an interesting series. It's going to come down to the stars. It's going to come down to Anthony Edwards, who 35% of his shots this postseason have been at the rim. The Mavericks are going to live with that. They're going to funnel him into those shots. They're going to show help. They're going to take away driving lanes. They're going to have a rim protector at the rim pretty much at all times to contest on those shots. As a team, 37% of Minnesota's shots have been at the rim this postseason. That's second only behind the Lakers. This will be interesting. I think the Mavericks defense matches up very well against this Timberwolves team. This Timberwolves defense obviously is historically great. Anthony Edwards is having a monster postseason. It really feels like a huge coming out party for him. And the Mavericks, injury-wise, obviously Luka's not close to 100%. And Maxi Kleber, if he were available, he changes a lot of things for this Mavericks team against this Timberwolves team, because he allows you to go smaller if you want to do that. He allows you to go really big with Gafford or Lively at the 5 and Maxey at the 4, which, you can kind of combat the Timberwolves' length and size. And all postseason long, I have said size usually almost always wins out in the playoffs, although I don't know if there's that big of a size advantage here for the Timberwolves. I mean, there obviously is, but the Mavericks are also a big team. This isn't like the Mavericks versus the Thunder, where there is a massive, clear and obvious size advantage. So anyways, it'll come down to the stars. It'll come down to the superstars. It's going to be a bloodbath of a series. I can't imagine a world where this series is short. If you were to come back from the future and tell me this is a 5-game series, I have to be honest, I don't feel good about that for the Mavericks, just because I think you could tell me that the size was just a little too much, and the Mavs role players regressed a little bit, and it led to the Timberwolves winning the series in 5, but I don't really see that as a possibility at all, to be honest with you. So I'm going Mavericks in 7. That's my pick. Bloodbath series, Game 7 on the road. I don't know how much that matters anymore. 2 road teams just won a Game 7 yesterday as of the time I'm recording this, and I'll take Luke Kai in a Game 7. I'll take those 2. I'll take that backcourt. Kyrie Irving has never lost a closeout game, and we'll see. We'll see if some inexperience kind of catches up to the Timberwolves. I really don't think so. I don't think they'll be scared of shit. They shouldn't be. They just beat the defending champions on the road in a Game 7, coming back down 20 points. They won't be scared of the moment. I don't think the Mavericks will be scared of the moment either. Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be intense.